I feel like everyone's gonna hate this video, just because I'm not gonna participate in the normal discourse of just men and women complaining about each other on the internet endlessly. I guess if you provide actual solutions, you can't exactly milk the topic for 500 videos, but it is what it is. I've seen it so many times in my life where a girl that I've been friends with will just have insane body dysmorphia, basically hating the fact that she's even female. That's what a lot of the trans and non-binary shit is about. Like, it's not because they so desperately want to be a man, it's just that they hate being female. Every woman that I've ever met in my life has either had genuinely severe mental issues, or just basically been too normy and too stupid to kind of have that level of complexity going on in her mind. Like, from my own experience, I feel like I've just been watching the female psyche just fucking unravel. And then when I look on the internet, it's just like people complaining that women are like too picky and don't want to fuck them. And that they're like being too irrational and unreasonable. Like, genuinely, why? And you're gonna fix it by complaining about it. Okay, congratulations, dude. Like, all of those grievances that men have with female behavior, like, yeah, sure, it's legitimate, right? You're not just imagining all the stress that it's causing you. But at the end of the day, it's still up to men to fix it. So what exactly is the issue? What is it exactly that's going on? Long story short, when it comes to all the women that I've ever met, their behavior and their mental issues basically comes from a lifetime of having every single feminine impulse that exists in them be punished every single step of the way. Because if you look at it evolutionarily, what are the main things that women have always had to focus on in their lives? It's all about psychologically attaching yourself to others, trying to make sure that the group likes you, trying to make sure that your kids don't die, trying to make sure that everyone's doing alright, that sort of thing. All of these impulses come from a place of vulnerability and managing vulnerability. And the problem with that is, in the modern atomized world, vulnerability always gets punished. So, for example, the female impulse to attach herself to a guy who seems confident, who seems sure of himself, because that way her own anxiety basically, it gets better because she's connected to a guy that doesn't feel as much anxiety, right? The problem with that is, what kind of man has confidence and a lack of anxiety in the modern world? 9 times out of 10, it's the stereotypical, like, idiot fuckboy that doesn't really have much of a sense of morality, that's very, very naive, and his whole perspective on life is just, how do I extract pleasure from it, right? Because when you're naive, your horizon is very narrow. So this standard female instinct that works in a more natural environment perfectly well, all of a sudden that impulse just drives them into the arms of these idiots that don't even care and just cheat on them 100 times. And even if they don't cheat for some reason, the relationship still just, it always devolves into this never-ending drama. Because men like that don't have a stable vision that can kind of rise above like petty day-to-day drama. Maybe that's a little abstract, but I don't want to go into too much detail in this video. Or for example, the other impulse of wanting to please the group. This is something my girlfriend does. She probably still does it sometimes, even though she's fully aware of what she's doing. She will deliberately go on like YouTube or something. She'll try to look for videos of basically gooner bait. Like any videos with some like anime girls with big titties or whatever, and then she'll look at the comment section where everyone's like saying, "Oh my god, she's so hot." Oh, and then she'll feel bad about herself and feel like she's a worthless piece of shit by comparison. Because if you're not in an organic environment, in an actual community, this impulse to please the group, you end up wanting to please just random people on the internet. Like, it's completely lacking any context. It's completely lacking any specific person that has a specific vision of what you should be like. You're just basically chasing down the approval of, like, your own schizophrenic ghosts, basically. Another impulse that's just completely fucked in the modern world is basically where you look for something external, someone else, to make decisions for you. For example, why do you think that so many women gravitate so hard towards astrology when it comes to, like, deciding who to date, or personality tests, you know, or anything like that? Because if you can't find any certainty in your own thoughts, you have to rely on something external. In an organic environment, that external thing would be a person or multiple people, right? But again, if you completely lack that in your life, and you have nobody in your life that you can genuinely look to and you trust that person, like you genuinely believe that if you do what that person tells you to, your life is going to be like actually good and you're going to be happy with the way things are, If you don't have that in your life, yeah, then, you seek out random things on the internet that aren't even really significant, but it gives you the illusion of certainty, right? It gives you the illusion that there's something in your life giving you certainty and clarity, right? So many of the girls that I've been friends with throughout my life, they just have this extreme tendency to just completely withdraw from the outside world and just sit in their rooms and just stew in this guilt and shame, and they don't even know what it is they feel guilty about, what it is that they feel ashamed about. But they do know that they don't want to interact with anyone because they're disgusting, and they don't want to, bother anyone else with how horrible they are. And this is just what happens. And now you might be thinking, well, they should just get a man to provide them some kind of psychological structure and then everything would be fine, right? The problem is, that man has to actually have a vision. That man needs to actually be able to create that positive, inherently fulfilling life for her that she needs. And just because you get a boyfriend doesn't mean that you all of a sudden have an intact organic community anyway, right? Like even the most perfect relationship in the world, it doesn't replace everything else that you need in your life. There's also this really big problem of there's a huge mismatch. Like I mentioned earlier, the guys that have confidence, that have an easy time getting girls, they're some of the most retarded and naive people in the whole society. And the kinds of people, people like me, for example, people that are much more serious about doing the right thing and that actually hold themselves to standards, usually people like that are the opposite and are like complete nervous wrecks because that impulse of righteousness, it just gets rejected by the outside world, so you're basically stuck with it alone, right? And it's super psychologically damaging to just be alone with something like that and not even be able to do anything with that idealism. Now, I have solutions for all these things. I'm not just complaining, don't worry. But a lot of it is in my other videos. I'll, put it on screen, I guess. If you think about it from an evolutionary perspective, you can see how completely stuck women are. Because let's say you're like a caveman, and you're a woman, and you're for some reason not satisfied with your authority figures, like the men that are basically, that you're relying on. What do? You have to find another man that you prefer to rely on instead, because you can't survive on your own, right? Because you don't have the neurological structure, you don't have the physical body that's capable of, standing alone against nature, right? It just doesn't work like that. So what's the only solution when you're not happy with the way things are? You find a different authority figure. You find a different group of men or a different man to rely on. And in the modern world, that other group, that other authority figure, it doesn't exist. In terms of actual authority, there's literally only the government and that's it. But, would be funny if someone did something about that, right? Because a man actually can make that bet. A man actually can just be like, no, fuck all of you guys. I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna create my own thing, and we'll see who wins. Unless a woman is literally, taking hormone blockers and testosterone. That's not a conclusion she can really arrive at. It just doesn't work. It's just fucking unnatural. And until the day that there's at least some group of men somewhere that are creating an actual alternative, they're going to be just as stuck as they are now. Just because people are unhappy doesn't mean that things just will magically get better on their own. Just because you're motivated to have better things doesn't mean it happens. There's this whole perspective of the nothing ever happens chud. The person sitting at home all day waiting for the West to collapse, waiting for all the power structures to collapse so that he isn't oppressed anymore. As if he would know what to do once the power structures collapse, right? It's like you subconsciously assume that life is like a TV show where you're a spectator and you're waiting for the good episodes to come. You're like, oh, I've had a lot of filler episodes now. I've had to sit through a lot of bullshit. But, at some point there's going to be a good episode. I just have to keep waiting, right? No, that's not how it fucking works, dude. You have to actually make it happen. And again, if you don't know how, wouldn't it be nice if there was someone out there who made it absolutely and abundantly clear? Because, it turns out it's not even that complicated. The solution very much goes against what you would assume, because people normally assume you have to, come with some political theory and take power, and that's how you fix things. No. Anyway, enough about my other videos. You can just go watch it. Anyway, one other thing I want to talk about is How do girls cope with the situation? Or especially older women that are like starting to realize how fucked they are. How do they cope with the situation? There's this YouTube channel, Jumi Kim, who basically does book reviews. That's the main thing about her channel. And I watched some video from her where she talks about how so many books that are written by women, it's almost like the whole book is just a coping mechanism. Basically, the main character will be like a 35-year-old woman, and throughout the whole book, it's constantly repeated, oh, I'm so confident, and men like me so much because I'm so confident, unlike those young bitches. Like, genuinely, an insane amount of times, it's repeated how confident the main character is. A 35-year-old woman. Tell me the last time you met a 35-year-old woman that had a high intrinsic level of confidence and psychological stability and satisfaction with her life. It doesn't happen very often, does it? It's like, he who has to say, I am confident, is obviously not confident. You know what I mean? Because, the feminist standard perspective kind of hates all of the solutions that I've just talked about. All the things that I've just talked about that are more psychologically natural. It kind of fucks with the whole, no, we are all atomized, strong women, and we don't need to rely on anyone for psychological stability, and we are inherently happy. It's like, yeah, if you've completely given up, I can see why you have to believe that, because otherwise you have to face the reality of, I was born as the gender that society has no solution for whatsoever. You don't see them writing books about, oh, I so wish that a male authority figure would take me and and give me a life that would actually be fulfilling. That's not the shit they're writing about. They're writing about how they don't need all those things. Actually, we're perfectly happy with the way things are. Just say it enough times and it'll be true at some point. Don't worry. We don't need functioning men or intact communities, direction, clarity, satisfaction. Just conjure a bunch of confidence out of the fucking ether. It's just magical thinking when there's no other solution. And as I said, if you're interested in potentially maybe doing something about the issue, there are some other videos, and you will see how to proceed.